Much of that anger is also being directed at the way in which India has carried out this. Kashmir's parliament wasn't consulted. Local politicians, including the former Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti, were placed under house arrest. Here's her response, in which she says that today is the darkest day in Indian democracy. She says to scrap Article 370 is illegal and unconstitutional. But the government has plenty of supporters. Just have a look at these Kashmiri Hindus. They are actually celebrating today's news because they're hopeful that the change to the constitution will see more Hindus settle in their state. That could include some of these Kashmiri Hindus who have been living in exile in New Delhi. They've also been celebrating. This is their reaction.
We congratulate Narendra Modi. Our banishment has ended. The most important thing is that now Jammu Kashmir will prosper. Today is the actual independence.
Now the Kashmiri Hindus will return on our own terms. It is a historic and very good step for us that Article 370 has been scrapped.
Let's speak to Mona Bhan, who's from the Syracuse University in New York. She's a professor of South Asian Studies. She's also co-edited the book Resisting Occupation in Kashmir. Let's get your initial reaction to this revocation of Article 370, Mona.
Right, so the revocation of Article 370 and Article 35A, which you just explained, allows Kashmir to have the special status within the Indian Union, to me is unconstitutional. It's illegal. It's in fact, I would say, the death of Indian democracy, if it ever existed, at least in the context of Kashmir. And we have to understand that for people in Kashmir, this is really the onset of demographic terrorism. And people are also deeply concerned, because there's this moral, emotional outrage. People feel this is an assault on their dignity, on their rights, on their very sense of being and integrity. And you have to also recognize that this comes at a very strange time, because up until a couple of days ago, the governor of the state was brazenly lying about the situation there being a status quo in the political situation in Kashmir, when in fact, there were policies underway to abrogate Article 370 and 35A. So the concern right now with Kashmiris is that it is literally the throttling of their identities, but also, right, there's a curfew that's been imposed. Kashmiri voices are being muzzled. You cannot hear the slightest soundbite coming from Kashmir, and it's deeply concerning. I am shocked. I have had a sleepless night thinking about the implications of this for Kashmiri civilians and how this could lead to an all-out genocide. Instead of an incremental one, which has already been happening. It's already been underway for the last 30 years now.
Mona, it's an incredibly strong reaction that you give us. Before you carry on, before you tell us a little bit more, I just want to bring in the reaction to the government, because, Mona, don't go away. I want to just remind our viewers that the government is actually playing down the significance of today's move, bearing in mind what Mona was saying. Let's hear a clip from the BJP spokesperson to what has been taking place. Have a listen to this.
Article 370 was never a permanent part of the Constitution. In fact, the first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, himself said in Parliament that it's a temporary provision. Secondly, this move that's been done by the Narendra Modi government is essentially not for the rest of India. It's about the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It's about them being able to finally have greater economic benefit, basically ensure that what kind of rule that they would have in terms of the growth that we are seeing in the other parts of the country.
So that's a spokesperson for the BJP. Mona, he's very much playing this down, and he's saying that this Article 370 was never meant to be permanent.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's right about it. It was supposed to be a provisional status, but then it was supposed to be provisional until the Kashmiri issue would be resolved politically in accordance with people's aspirations. Now, that's not happened. The only political body responsible or that could legally abrogate the article was the Constituent Assembly, which was dissolved in 1957. So essentially, there is no constitutional body, there's no legal body that has the right to abrogate the article. And in fact, even if you were to keep the Constituency Assembly point aside, there was no voice, no representation taken into account from Kashmir. In fact, those political leaders that have floated the flag of Indian quote-unquote democracy in Kashmir have been under house arrest now for over 2 days. And they're the ones also now finally coming out in support of what they consider to be an assault on Kashmiri identity. I just want to also point out that it's quite ironic that these mainstream politicians, Kashmiri politicians, who have forcibly held the reins of Indian power in Kashmir are now relying on popular protests, people's anger and rage to deliver Kashmir from this turmoil. So it was meant to be provisional, but the only body, and I'm going to repeat it, the only body that was responsible or could abrogate it constitutionally, legally, was the Constituent Assembly, which was itself dissolved in 1957 or 56.
Mona Bhan, apologies once again for interrupting, but we're rounding out of time. From the Syracuse University in New York, thank you so much. And as you